All right, welcome back. Many are still calling us to go over the amendments. Some of you have voted for them already, but others still confused. So let's bring up the first one. This comes from the PAR, Louisiana PAR Guide to the Constitutional Amendments. The first one, prohibiting donations to conduct elections. Now, if you break it down in a nutshell, the argument for is allowing non-governmental sources to help pay for elections, and it will let them have undue influence in the management of election operations. Donations can be skewed to specific parishes based on the partisan leanings of the voting majority who live there, giving some places more resources than others to run their elections. And furthermore, we could look at the donations sidestep the public legislative budgeting process. The offices of Attorney General and Secretary of State say such donations currently aren't allowed. Explicitly saying so in the Constitution will strengthen that prohibition. Now, the argument against prohibiting philanthropic and other non-government donations to assist in covering election costs limits the dollars available for election agencies to pay for their expenses, maintain needed staffing levels, and ensure well-run casting of ballots. The assistance could be particularly useful after disasters and in response to inflationary increases. Ironclad donation agreements can be crafted without strings attached to maintain election integrity. In addition, the prohibition can be enacted in law without needing a constitutional change. Let's go to the next one. Protection for worship in churches. Now, of course, in this one, you can see it right in the screen, a vote for would declare the highest level of constitutional protection for the freedom to worship in a church or another place of worship, requiring courts, there you see it on your screen, to apply the strictest level of judicial review to challenges when government bodies restrict access. Now, a vote against this would both the U.S. and state constitutions already protect the free exercise of religion as one of the nation's most safeguarded rights, and the added language is unnecessary. The strict scrutiny judicial review standard already is applied by courts in such legal cases regarding the freedom to worship. So there you see on the right side, there's the vote against. So once again, make your choice if you vote yes or you vote no on that one. Now, the next one, surplus spending on retirement debt. The current situation, Louisiana will owe state employees, state troopers, teachers, and school employees their promised pension benefits when they retire, but the four major retirement systems have a $17 billion gap between them on how much they need to pay those benefits and their investment assets. A vote for would require lawmakers to use 25% of any state surplus to pay retirement debt for the four state retirement systems. A vote against would leave the current requirement that lawmakers spend 10% of any state surplus to pay retirement debt for two state retirement systems through 2029. All right, so let's go to the next one if we could. Property tax exemptions for nonprofit organizations. In the current situation, as you know, the Louisiana Constitution provides many special property tax breaks to people and organizations. Among those exempt from paying property taxes include nonprofit organizations for religious, burial, charitable, health, welfare, fraternal, or educational purposes, nonprofit entities that house people who are homeless, labor organizations, fraternal and charitable lodges or clubs, nonprofits that promote trade, travel, commerce, nonprofit entities that are a trade, business, industry, or professional association, with exception for property owned by a nonprofit for commercial use rather than the purposes of the nonprofit's mission. So A vote for would allow local government officials to remove a property tax exemption from nonprofit organizations that lease housing and have repeated public health or safety violations. A vote against would maintain the current system of property tax exemptions for nonprofit organizations, including for those that have repeated public health and safety violations. So I think it's obvious on this one that a vote for would give people a little more teeth in enforcing these amendments, and that way, well, not the amendment itself, but it would enforce the law, because the amendment would take care of that. So there you have it. There are several amendments that you will be voting on. As you know, I don't go on the air and tell people how to vote. Study these amendments. You can get them. We just tried to give you the pros and cons, because amendments can be very confusing. Sometimes you're voting yes and you really mean no, and sometimes you're voting no and you really mean yes. But just look them over. They're pretty self-explanatory. If you want to go to the PARs, let me pull that front page again. PAR Louisiana, it's a PAR guide to the 2023 constitutional amendments. Just look for that, and you'll be able to read up on all of them, and that way you can get educated on what you want to do as a citizen, because sometimes you talk to anybody, and a lot of people are uninformed on the amendments, and they're giving advice to others on how to vote. And people always ask everybody, how you voting on the amendments? Well, if you're uninformed and you really don't know what you're voting for, you might be giving bad information to those that want to vote a certain way. So read up on it, get educated on it, and don't forget to please go out and vote. From what we're hearing, it's going to be a low voter turnout. You can help that cause by getting out there and voting, exercising your rights. Hopefully we've helped you a little bit with the amendments, and once again, we'll see election coverage live on HTV on Saturday, October 14th. We'll be back with more.